Good afternoon. My name is Caitlin Coley, and I thank everybody for joining me today. Today I will be presenting Johann Sebastian Bach's influence on Eugene Issei through two specific collections of works for solo violin. So please sit back as we go Bach to the future to discover how Bach still lives on today and will continue to live on for the foreseeable future. In the early 18th century, Bach composed a collection of 6 works known as 6 sonatas and partitas for solo violin, which are well known for showcasing the violin's technical capabilities in style and rhythm. Sonatas and partitas are known for their multi-movement characteristics with minor differences between the two. Bach used these two forms in our harmonious collection for solo violin. Later, in the 20th century, Eugene Issei composed a similarly structured collection of 6 works for solo violin called 6 Sonatas for Violin Solo, Opus 27. Even though these two works were composed in different time periods, various hints of Bach's ingenious motifs can be found through the movements I've selected in Eugene Issei's works through rhythm and structure. This research will explain the historical background behind each composer and emphasize how Bach's usage of rhythm and structure in his prelude from Partita No. 3 in E major inspired Issei to follow suit in Obsession from Sonata No. 2 A minor. Johann Sebastian Bach, born on March 21, 1685, is often described as the most important member of the family. His genius combined outstanding performing musicianship with supreme creative powers in which forceful and original inventiveness, technical mastery, and intellectual control are perfectly balanced. J.S. Bach by no means lacked a musical background and was the driving force of the Baroque era. He grew up surrounded by siblings and parents who invested a great deal of time in the art of music. For instance, it is speculated that he had help from his brother Johann Christoph in learning the organ and piano. During his lifetime, he was known as an organist with a natural knack for composing music. In the journal article J.S. Bach's Youth, published by the Oxford University Press, Friedrich Bloom and Wilbur Newcomb attest that in his earlier years, Bach became an outstanding, even a virtuoso organist, an expert in organ building, and a full-fledged composer, even if he still wrote in an older style. These qualities of Bach have withstood the test of time, as he is still well regarded as one of the top music idols, with more recognition for his compositional works today. Johann Sebastian Bach is still distinguished for possessing these various attributes. Later on in J.S. Bach's life, he accepted a position from the Duke of Weimar, a Calvinist who had no need for sacred music. So therefore, an organ was not necessary in his chapel. This pushed Bach to conduct and compose for secular instrumental music, which later resulted in the creation of his sonatas and partitas for unaccompanied violin. This is one of Johann Sebastian Bach's many respected compositional works, completed in 1720, called 6 Solos for Violin Without Bass Accompaniment. Today, they are known as 6 Sonatas and Partitas for Solo Violin, catalog numbers 1001 to 1006. This work is a mass collection of 6 works in its entirety, with specific movements belonging to each of the 6 works, varying from the two musical forms sonata and partita. These two differ in that, according to the Encyclopedia Britannica, a sonata is a type of musical composition usually for a solo instrument or a small instrumental ensemble that typically consists of 2 to 4 movements or sections, each in a related key but with a unique musical character. Whereas a partita, taken from the Oxford University Press, is described as a term used at different times for a variation, a piece, a set of variations, and a suite or other multi-movement genres. As you can see on the slide, all six works in Bach's collection, taken from an edition edited by Ivan Galamian with facsimile of the autograph manuscript. You can notice how Bach switches between the two forms of sonata and partita. For example, Sonata 1, number 1 in G minor is followed by Partita number 1 in B minor. Also from this edition, Paul Alfadur describes the usage of the sonata and partita in this work as the following. Each of the sonatas is in the form of the Baroque Sonata da Chiesa, or church sonata, with a 4-movement pattern of slow, fast, slow, fast. The style of the three partitas is lighter and freer, following rather loosely the pattern of the Baroque dance suite. You can also take notice on the slides under sonata, there are strictly 4 movements, as where under partita, there's a varying number of movements and is not as strict. This collection of works is argued to be some of the best literature for solo violin, but little did Johann Sebastian Bach know that his compositional skill would have such a vast influence on composers of the future. One of those many composers was born on July 16, 1858. Eugene August Issei was from Liège, Belgium. Eugene Issei was a violinist who had demonstrated promising qualities of dedication towards the violin. He originally acquired the knowledge of music through his father and later entered the Liège Conservatory. However, his skill on the violin only took him so far in life, which is when he turned to composition. Michael Stockham, preface writer from Eugene Issei's 6 sonatas for solo violin, an edition edited by Norbert Gersch, indicated that Issei reached his zenith as a composer at a time of artistic upheaval, when his stature as an instrumentalist had entered a steep decline. He too was forced to discover how easily a world with no notion of high fidelity can forget one of its greatest masters. Issei also began to shift his focus to conducting as his health declined in the later years of his life, and the violin started to slip out of his ability, unfortunately. At this crucial point in his life, Issei produced a similar collection of works to that of J.S. Bach's 6 sonatas and partitas for solo violin. Eugene Issei's most noticed and outstanding collection of works is that for solo violin, named 6 sonatas for solo violin, opus 27. Like Johann Sebastian Bach's sonatas and partitas for solo violin, Issei's collection consists of 6 works with movements belonging to each specific section, or in this case, sonata. Issei's assortment of sonatas is as follows on the screen. You can notice how each sonata has a name presented next to it. Eugene Issei dedicated and wrote each sonata personally for the following virtuosic violinists: Joseph Szigeti, Jacques Thibaud, George Enesco, Fritz Kreisler, Mathieu Crickboom, and Manuel Kroga. The specific violinist Issei tied to the work I've selected, which is highlighted under Sonata Number 2, is Jacques Thibaud. Issei wanted to highlight the characteristics of each violinist he wrote for, and in this case, the characteristic that Jacques Thibaud was noted as tender lyricism. The movement in Issei's collection in which Bach's influences are most notable is Obsession from Sonata Number 2, A minor. Various excerpts are written into Issei's Obsession taken from Bach's Prelude from Partita Number 3 in E major. These 2 movements are similar in rhythm in that they are comprised almost exclusively of 16th notes. They also have the same meter of 3/4 time and are known for challenging the violin's technical capabilities. The excerpts to follow are in order in which they appear in Obsession from Issei's work. The first excerpt that Issei uses in Obsession from Bach's Prelude is the most apparent declaration of influence from Bach. So the excerpts will appear from Bach's, and then Issei's will be on the bottom of that. So I'll be performing the excerpts first and then explaining the differences and similarities between the 2. So figure 1, Bach. And now figure 2, Issei. So in figure 2, Issei took the same opening that is used in figure 1, which you might have noticed, the prelude, which consists of 8th rest followed by 16th notes and 8th notes. Issei also has minor differences in his, such as staccato or detached bowing, and his use of leggero, which means lightly and gracefully. Bach's theme makes it apparent that Bach impacted Issei and his body of work, and is a preliminary taste of what other motifs are to come in Obsession. Issei's intent here was to make a statement by using the same entrance Bach uses in his Prelude. The next point, in which there is a direct quote taken from the prelude and added to Obsession, is noted in Figure 3 and 4. Figure 3 for Bach. And then Figure 4, Issei. The bracketed section in Figure 4 makes use of the same notes in the identical ascending pattern and rhythm as displayed in Figure 3. Figure 3 continues on with ascending 16th notes with no break, whereas Issei seems to highlight his inclusion of Bach's motif by putting quarter rests at the beginning and end of the bracketed section, singling out the reference to Bach's prelude with the addition of staccato or detached bowing and marked piano. The smallest excerpt that we will be viewing today is this one here. It's only one measure in both Bach's work and Issei's. Unlike any other excerpt we will view, this is the one passage where Issei continues on with 16th notes after introducing Bach's quote, as you can see in Figure 6. So Figure 5, Bach, the bracketed section. And then Figure 5, excuse me, and then Figure 6, Issei. Issei slurs all the descending 16th notes together, except for the first one with the addition of staccato, which we can tell he really likes staccato. All right. In Figure 7, Bach wrote a continuous 16th note passage, and Issei, yet again, expresses the idea of highlighting Bach's theme by adding 2 16th note rests and fermata at the end of the phrase in Figure 8. However, Issei leaves out the C sharp, D sharp, E sharp, and F sharp, originally used in Bach's prelude for C, D, E, and F. Figure 7 for Bach. And now Figure 8, Issei. The final excerpt we will view today is in some of the last measures of Bach's prelude. Figure 10. All right, so in Figure 9, it starts on E and revisits E several times, but an octave higher. Similarly, in Figure 10, Issei follows this same concept and structure, but instead starts on A, and consecutively revisiting A as the 16th notes follow the same descending pattern, but an octave higher. Also in Figure 10, Issei notated slurs instead of separate bowings, giving it a more connected feel, and thus this time leaves out staccato, except for the first 3 and 4 16th notes in the second measure. Not only do these musical excerpts give light that Bach touched the life of Eugene Issei through his works, but there are several accounts that describe Issei's fascination with Bach's works. For example, Michael Stockham, preface writer from 6 Sonatas for Violin Solo, stated that Issei had long occupied himself with Bach's works for unaccompanied violin and had frequently played the D minor chaconne in public. Stockham also stated how some speculate that Issei's 6 sonatas were conceived as a modern-day response to Bach's music and a renewal of the message they contain. No matter how one may interpret Issei's utilization of certain phrases from Bach's prelude, it is evident that Bach's work has withstood the test of time and that his compositions are an inspiration. In conclusion, Eugene August Issei was inspired and influenced by Johann Sebastian Bach's genius. More specifically, he was impacted by Bach's prelude from Partita No. 3 in E major, catalog number 1006, which we can see clearly through the various direct quotes Issei uses in Obsession from Sonata number 2, A minor. We previewed the backgrounds of Eugene Issei and Johann Sebastian Bach and discovered various attributes to both of the collected works I've selected to examine. Finally, excerpts were performed and viewed for the greatest possible understanding of the connection between the movement Obsession and Prelude. With all this in mind, it is clear to see how even today J.S. Bach always manages to come back to the future and enlighten our senses and inspire composers such as that of Eugene August Issei, in this case through solo violin for sonatas and partitas.